Perfect Pairings, exploring the flavor synergy of Japanese cuisine and green tea. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to explore the idea of perfect pairings in cuisine, an idea that French speakers often call mariage or marriage, by comparing the classic example of French food and wine with something that may be new to you: Japanese cuisine and green tea. While the French term implies a wedding of flavors, it's really about discovering culinary matches where each element brings out the best in the other. Think of it as a synergy that makes 1 + 1 greater than 2. Now, why are perfect pairings so important in the culinary world? Simply put, human taste is incredibly complex. We often talk about 5 basic sensations: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. When 2 or more flavors combine, they can either intensify one another or soften rough edges, creating a more layered and satisfying experience. For example, consider red wine and steak. Red wine contains tannins, which can feel dry or astringent. But when you pair them with a juicy cut of beef, those tannins bind with the proteins in the meat and become smoother, while the steak feels fresher thanks to the wine's acidity. These synergistic effects aren't just about chemistry, though. They're also shaped by traditions, like France's notion of local wine for local food, and Japan's similar idea of local cuisine with local sake. And of course, exploring new pairings is simply a lot of fun. Sometimes you discover a combination that completely transforms your everyday meals into something special. Why perfect pairings matter? In France, the concept of a perfect pairing goes hand in hand with wine culture, but it applies to many other foods and beverages too. Red wine with steak is a classic because the meat's fattiness and the wine's tannins balance each other, keeping your palate refreshed between bites. White wine with fish has a similar effect. The wine's acidity tames any oily or briny elements, enhancing the more delicate flavors. And then there's the sweet wine paired with salty cheese, such as a rich blue cheese, a combination that might sound surprising but creates an addictively sweet and salty contrast. While these pairings might seem like set rules, modern chefs and sommeliers encourage experimentation. Sometimes you'll see fish served with a lighter red wine or a heartier white wine with a richer poultry dish. At the end of the day, taste is personal. Even if tradition provides a great starting point, trying unexpected pairings can lead to delicious discoveries. Classic French examples. That said, let's look at some iconic French examples of culinary pairings. One is hearty beef stew or roast beef with a full-bodied Bordeaux. The wine's tannic structure melds beautifully with the richness of the meat, creating a cohesive and balanced mouthfeel. Meanwhile, crisp whites, like those from the Loire Valley or a Chablis from Burgundy, pair excellently with lighter seafood or a creamy poultry dish because they highlight delicate flavors without overpowering them. And if you're a fan of sweet wines, you might be surprised by how well a Sauternes complements pungent blue cheese. The sugary notes of the wine and the strong salty character of the cheese come together to form an intense yet harmonious contrast. Each of these pairings has its own history, which adds a sense of story and depth to the experience. It's not just about the flavors themselves, but the culture and tradition behind them. Japanese cuisine basics. Now let's switch gears and talk about Japanese cuisine. A typical Japanese meal: a bowl of rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, and maybe some grilled fish, might look simple at first, but every element is designed to enhance the others. Sushi provides a great example. You have vinegared rice, or shari, and a piece of fresh seafood on top, or neta, plus a touch of wasabi and soy sauce. The slight sweetness of the rice, the hint of vinegar, the umami from the fish, and the kick of wasabi form a flavor synergy that's much greater than its individual parts. Soy sauce contributes extra savory depth, and that combination of different umami sources really amplifies what you taste. Then there's dashi, Japan's fundamental soup stock made from kombu kelp and bonito flakes. It's a textbook case of how combining 2 different types of umami can multiply the overall flavor. Even a simple bowl of miso soup and a side of steamed rice can taste incredibly rich when you break down the layers of flavor. Add in more fermented products, like natto or pickled vegetables, and you have countless opportunities for taste harmony. Sake, too, is a fascinating drink to pair with various dishes. Some sakes are crisp and light, ideal for delicate dishes like sashimi, while others are fuller in body and go wonderfully with richer foods like simmered vegetables or grilled eel. And the serving temperature of sake, cold, room temperature, or warm, changes its character dramatically, allowing for yet another dimension of pairing. Green tea spotlight. This brings us to the highlight of today's discussion: green tea and how it pairs with Japanese food. Internationally, you've probably come across matcha-flavored desserts like green tea lattes or ice cream. But in Japan, people often drink green tea, like sencha, gyokuro, or hojicha, without added sugar or milk, letting its natural bitter, sweet, and savory notes shine through. At a sushi restaurant in Japan, you'll likely be offered a cup of green tea, called agari, precisely because it resets your palate between different pieces of sushi. Hojicha, which is a roasted green tea, has a toasty aroma that goes incredibly well with grilled fish, matching savory notes with roasted nuances. If you prefer something richer, gyokuro or a deep-steamed sencha can cut through the oil of fried dishes. Surprisingly, desserts can also pair beautifully with unsweetened green tea. A piece of chocolate cake or a buttery pastry might taste even better when accompanied by tea that cleanses your palate. One of the best things about green tea is that its flavor changes dramatically based on water temperature or steeping time. Brewing it with hot water intensifies the bitterness and astringency, while cooler water draws out more sweetness and umami. That flexibility can keep your meals interesting as you test different tea varieties and brewing methods. Harmony and contrast. When creating great pairings, there are two main approaches: harmony and contrast. In a harmonious pairing, you match bold dishes with robust drinks or delicate dishes with lighter beverages so that they complement each other's intensity. In a contrasting pairing, you use opposing qualities, like a fatty dish with a bright, bitter, or acidic drink, to cleanse your palate between bites. Green tea can do both, depending on how it's brewed. Warmer temperatures bring out tannins and bitterness to cut through rich foods, while cooler, shorter steeping times highlight sweetness and roundness, which can balance desserts. It's all about trying different methods and noticing how the flavors evolve. Remember, your own preference is key. What's perfect for one person might not be for someone else, so there's no substitute for hands-on experimentation. Wrap up and conclusion. Before we wrap up, I hope this conversation has shown that great flavor combinations aren't just about wine. In Japanese cuisine, nearly every dish can be paired thoughtfully with green tea, or sake, to elevate both food and drink. The concept is all about bringing two elements together in a way that enhances each one, whether it's sushi with green tea, miso soup with rice, or sake with grilled fish. If you found this episode insightful, please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments if you've discovered any amazing food and drink pairings yourself, especially ones that caught you by surprise. In our next episode, I'll demonstrate a few easy ways to brew green tea at different temperatures and share simple at-home experiments to help you find a new favorite. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy tasting.